future. Our eyes and ears across the solar system. New developments in air terminal design. And interactivity gets musical. During the last decade of the 20th century, a second generation of robotic probes was launched to add to our knowledge of the solar system. In the 1970s, the two Voyager probes travelled to the large outer planets. The Voyager spacecraft found evidence of water, active volcanoes, and we learnt more about planetary ring systems and giant planetary storms. The Galileo spacecraft reached Jupiter in 1995 and released a descent module. At the same time, the Ulysses probe was sending back new information about the Sun from a unique orbit that it took above the Sun's polar regions. Only recently did Ulysses stop working. For the Galileo probe to reach Jupiter, it was sent on a circuitous path that gave it extra gravity assistance as it passed close to Venus once and Earth twice. The atmospheric sampling probe was released as Galileo approached Jupiter. After entry, the probe relayed data for 58 minutes before the intense heat melted the craft. After more than 8 years at Jupiter, as it was running low on fuel, Galileo was crashed into the giant planet. During its long flight to the gas giant, Galileo sent back images of asteroids and this unique perspective of Earth. Taken from a distance of 1,000 kilometres, these pictures, collected over a 25-hour time span, were combined to give a view of the whole Earth in motion that had never been seen before. Similarly, images of the Moon were recorded, capturing its more cratered far side. In 1989, the Magellan probe was launched to investigate Venus, Earth's twin. The planet's surface is shrouded in an opaque atmosphere, and Magellan carried a radar mapper that could penetrate the thick cloud. Magellan was the first planetary spacecraft launched from the Space Shuttle. After a 15-month journey, Magellan began mapping the Venusian surface. Its polar orbit allowed it to record all of Venus's topography. The images suggest 80% of the surface is bedrock, with peculiar features indicating extremes of volcanic activity. Old areas that have not been resurfaced by lava flows showed few signs of weathering. Although surface temperatures are very high and the acidic atmosphere is corrosive, winds are very slow, resulting in very little erosion. Some raw data has been processed into moving images that show a desolate landscape. Other features, like these volcanic domes, appear to preserve cracking patterns that formed as the lava cooled. Yet other regions show irregular depressions and pits, formed as subsurface lava chambers drained and the crust collapsed. The Guinevere region is crossed by linear fractures, breaking the surface into rectangular blocks. While tentative plans to send a manned mission to Mars are unfolding, new robotic probes continue to uncover the true nature of our planetary neighbourhood. Over recent years, new satellites are telling us more about the nature of our own planet and its poorly understood systems. Scientists are keen to learn more about how heat is moved around the planet. Volcanic activity is prevalent where the Earth's crust is thin. Fluctuations in the planet's density mean there are small variations in gravitation. To accurately map these gravitational anomalies, the European Space Agency built the Gautier satellite. Understanding the Earth's lumpy gravitation is important for understanding the ocean currents, the major conveyors of heat between the tropics and the frigid zones. The lower Gautier could orbit, the more accurate would be its results. It needed to have an operational height of just over 250 kilometres. But this confronted designers with a number of new problems. The craft's main instrument, is an unprecedentedly accurate gradiometer, but any unwanted movements of the satellite would induce huge errors in its measurements. In its low orbit, the thin upper reaches of the atmosphere can cause slight buffering and rapid decay in the satellite's altitude. Variations in the Earth's composition, like mountain ranges, will cause fluctuation in orbital speed, which is essentially what the gradiometer measures. To prevent unwanted variations due to atmospheric drag, Goche is equipped with an ion drive that continuously boosts the craft. Xenon fuel is electrically charged via power from the solar panels. The system continually generates tiny forces between 1 and 20 millinewtons, depending on how much drag the satellite experiences. Since its launch, the propulsion system has been thoroughly tested, and the orbital height has been lowered in preparation for the mapping to start. The results will be expected as a geoid, a bumpy globe where differences in gravitation are represented as peaks or valleys. This information will help Earth scientists understand the ocean currents that play an important role in the planet's climatic system. 2 more new probes have a much broader objective. The European Space Agency recently launched Herschel, an infrared space telescope to view distant cold bodies, and Planck, a probe designed to measure the cosmic microwave background radiation. Together, they rode into space atop an Ariane 5. The 2 probes will take up solar orbits 1.5 million kilometres away, where the Earth's gravitational influence balances that of the Sun. Herschel and Planck are stacked together as one unit for launch and transit. As soon as the upper stage has boosted the 2 craft out of Earth's orbit, they separated. Here, the lower Planck probe is still encased in a load-bearing structure called a cylinder, needed when 2 craft are launched together. They will both take up independent orbits around the L2 Lagrangian point. In 1772, French mathematician Louis Lagrange realized that there were 5 points close to the Earth's path around the Sun, where small bodies could orbit at the same speed as the Earth, even though they were further from or closer to the Sun. Planck will plot the aftermath of the Big Bang at the beginning of the universe. Expansion after the Big Bang was not uniform, and it is these irregularities in the background radiation left over from the beginning of the universe that astrophysicists want to examine. To detect these incredibly weak variations in temperature, Planck carries a large flask of super-cold liquid helium to keep the sensors free of any heat contamination from the hotter surface module. Our picture of the universe is incomplete. All visible things account for less than 1% of the estimated mass of the universe, and theories of dark matter and dark energy give a poor explanation about what is observed. It is hoped Planck will answer fundamental questions about the formation of the universe. The Herschel Space Telescope has been designed to detect and investigate galaxies in the distant universe. Like Planck, it contains supercooled detectors, heavily shielded from the Sun and warm areas of the spacecraft's service systems. Other observations of the cold clouds of gas within our own galaxy reveal interstellar materials condensing into strings of newly forming stars. Because infrared light easily penetrates gas clouds, Herschel is well suited to investigations of star formation. This galaxy is viewed via visible light, and then with the spectrum extended into the infrared. Herschel's 1.5-meter primary mirror is the largest mirror ever built for a space telescope. It is designed to collect long wavelength radiation from some of the coldest and most distant objects in the universe. It focuses images onto the supercooled detectors within the helium-filled cryostat. Because the helium will dissipate, Herschel will have a limited lifespan. It should last for 3 years, with a possibility of 1 further year. Already, Herschel is starting to reveal previously unseeable parts of our own galaxy where stars are born. The German city of Cologne recently played host to Gamescom, a showcase event featuring the latest cyber games from across the globe. The opening ceremony had a definite Star Wars theme, always popular at this type of show. More than 420 exhibitors from 30 countries participated, with 120,000 square metres of exhibition space devoted to developers, publishers, trading partners and gamers. 150 new games were on display, and the good news for traders is that the recession doesn't appear to be biting. The Tony Hawk ride has an innovative skateboard-shaped controller, and the game is played without the traditional handheld device. The convention features new products, from infotainment and edutainment games to casual sports and music games, as well as games with action and adventure themes. Interactive music entertainment is a rapidly growing market segment, and in the lifestyle area of Gamescom, people were flocking to participate in dance and disco events. Organisers were hoping to attract people who hadn't previously identified themselves as members of a games community. Blizzard Entertainment's latest StarCraft incarnation, Wings of Liberty, is due for release next year. It's a sci-fi military strategy game played in real time. Dungeon roaming types were keen to experience Diablo's third instalment. And Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games for the Wii platform is the first official video game of the 2010 Winter Olympics. It's the third crossover title to feature both Mario and Sonic. The game features all of the playable characters that were present in predecessors, as well as some new characters. Forza Motorsport 3 is the latest version of the popular racing game, just released for the Xbox 360. And just before the show, Sony announced it was dropping the price of its PlayStation 3 game consoles to increase sales. Barcelona's El Prat Airport has been completely revamped. A new facility, designed by Catalan architect Ricardo Bofill, will handle more than 30 million passengers each year. It took 4 years to complete the terminal, which gives the airport 500,000 square metres of new space. The main hall, also known as the Fork, has 43 aircraft fingers that can be extended to 50, as well as 70 aircraft parking spaces. It makes Barcelona one of the main air hubs of the Mediterranean. Terminal 1 can receive over 90 planes each hour. Passengers will have 166 reception counters and 52 self-check-in machines laid out over 6 boarding areas, allowing the airport to handle 10,000 passengers every day. On arrival at Terminal 1, 16 luggage belts deliver baggage for collection. New security procedures have been implemented that deliver a high level of safety with minimal compromise to passenger flow and convenience. The plan called for the terminal to be able to meet Barcelona's needs over the next 2 decades. The new complex accommodates a central operations hub. From a single room, staff can control all airport operations. Building subsystems, passenger movement, security alerts, and safety problems can all be monitored from this operations hub. It's a new concept in airport design shared by only a few newer facilities around the world. Manuel Trujillo is the terminal's chief of maintenance.
This representation of the Terminal 1 building shows the airport's fire detection system. This enables us to detect a fire from here instead of having personnel all over the building trying to locate it. We can control it from here.
The global financial crisis has affected the number of passenger movements around the world, and as yet, the terminal has not had to cope with large crowds. Air traffic in Barcelona will increase in the future, and the large infrastructure project is needed to keep the region competitive. The latest baggage scanning technology has been employed to ensure safety without causing delays. The new terminal increases the airport's yearly capacity to 55 million passengers. It was designed by Ricardo Bofill. He already designed the airport's other terminal building completed for the Barcelona Olympics.
Architecture is a compromised art, unlike poetry or any other individualist forms of art, in which one can do whatever one feels like. We are restricted by rules and constrictions that stop us from doing what we'd really like. Because if we were to do what we really like, then it wouldn't be economically viable.
There are concerns in areas along the approaches to El Prat that the new terminal will lead to increased air traffic with greater noise pollution. But a recent ruling from the local government requires planes to follow a different flight path. Doctors have been talking up the health benefits of the Mediterranean diet for decades. Lycopene, found in ripe tomato skins, is a powerful antioxidant which helps prevent the clogging of the arteries. Now, the cholesterol-battling properties of the humble tomato have been crammed into a capsule. Cambridge Theranostics says its capsules, called Aterenon, use proteins from milk and soya to enable the antioxidant molecules to be more easily absorbed.
This works as an antioxidant, so what it does is it stops LDL cholesterol, that's bad cholesterol, from being oxidized into a damaged form, which is more likely to fur up to narrow the arteries. One of the good things about this product is it's shown to be able to get into the body and do that job. Of course, the knock-on benefit of that is if it can reduce the likelihood of narrowed arteries, you're less likely to suffer things like heart attacks and stroke.
Each capsule contains 7 milligrams of lycopene, compared to 1 milligram in a normal serving of cooked ripe tomatoes.
Well, in theory, until you've really tested something, you don't know whether it can do harm. Although it's a natural substance, it's been concentrated up and it has had chemical modifications, so one can't always assume it's just like eating a few tomatoes. But the real issue is the one of efficacy. We don't have any evidence that it's effective yet.
However, the medical profession is urging caution. Cambridge Theranostics conducted its own studies on 150 people over 5 years. They reported a 90% improvement without any ill effects. But there still haven't been any properly organised randomised trials. And in the United Kingdom, a trial is underway. The Brooklyn Museum, in conjunction with New York's North Shore University Hospital, is continuing to use high-end medical scanning techniques to further its understanding of its collection of ancient Egyptian artefacts. The remains of the royal prince, Count of Thebes, is one of 4 ancient Egyptian mummies to be scanned. The mummies range in age from more than 3,000 years old to just over 1,700 years. One, known as Lady Whore, is thought to be around 2,000 years old. It was discovered in 1937.
We hope to discover such things as the history of disease, to verify gender of the mummies that have not been unwrapped, and to perhaps find the cause of death, and also the age at death. And these are just some of the questions that we're asking about these mummies.
The testing enables radiologists to learn about the bones and skeletal systems of the mummies in extraordinary detail, without having to damage the specimens. The scanners contain 64 detectors, each just 0.6 of a millimetre thick. Each one reveals a sliced view of the body it scans. But the scans revealed some surprises. The oldest of the 4 mummies, a royal prince, was revealed to have a hollow reed lodged in its throat. This was not the only unexpected finding. Lady Hoare came in a sarcophagus shaped like a woman, without the symbolic beard that adorns the funerary case used for males.
We've already found something very interesting that Dr. Husset is going to talk to you about, but apparently one of the ladies we brought turns out to be a man.
Researchers began quipping that Lady Hoare was not a mummy, but a daddy. The results already have archaeologists revising their ideas about how to distinguish whether a mummy case is intended for a male or a female. The scan of the mummy showed the man was 30 years older than had previously been estimated, and that he had died from an infected gallstone, usually a sign of a male mummy. The mummies have gone back on display at the Brooklyn Museum, along with some of the scans. People are fascinated by ancient Egyptian civilization, and this type of high-tech medical examination has museums with Egyptian collections scrambling to make connections with hospitals and universities. At Stanford Medical School, the mummified body of Irithoru, thought to be a priest from around 500 BC, is also being scanned. Irithoru's mummy was dissintered from a cemetery in Akim, on the east bank of the Nile. It was an important provincial capital and the site of one of Egypt's major temples.
Our job is to reconstruct the mummy, visualize it, and use it for medical education on all levels, from grade school through medical school. Patient education, we'll use it. It's a mummy, so it makes the interest factor high. So.
Mummies from the Akim area do not come from the ancient ruling class. They are upper class and middle class. The mummy has been in the collections of the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco since 1917 and has been on loan to the Hagen Museum in Stockton since 1944. The scans will provide additional information on the mummification process and will eventually help with a forensic reconstruction of how Irithoru would have looked while he was alive. The scanner being used for the project is a high-resolution, high-contrast unit that does not read soft tissue very well, but is excellent for analysing detail in bone structure. Examinations such as this are the beginning of a new era of scientific investigation, known as paleopathology. So far, researchers have not been able to pinpoint Irithoru's age, when he died, or the cause of his death. For now, they can only date him to around 500 BC, just before the Persian conquest, when the last native Egyptian dynasty ruled. The imaging revealed the presence of more than a dozen talismanic or magical protective amulets within Irithoru's protective shroud. It is known that the mummy led a life as a priest, focused on the god Min. Archaeologists are unsure if these amulets relate to the Min sect. After scientists are finished with him, Irithoru's mummy will be the centrepiece of an exhibit called Very Post Mortem, Mummies and Medicine, when he will return to San Francisco.